I think men who don't go to therapy have a lot of inner stress, a lot of anger, and a lot of things that can resolve because society tells them that no man can talk about it. And that's why a lot of men end up in jail. That's why most men end up addicts. That's why most men are. It's because society is telling them you don't need to go see a therapist.
Right.
It is bad.
Right.
I don't think men are ending up in jail because of their lack of going to therapy.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is anger. That's the only anger they express because that's the only anger that society seems as necessary for them to feel. I'm not saying lack of therapy will result in jail or prison time, but I'm saying it could definitely help them keep them out of it.
Wait, do you genuinely think that, like, would you agree that the cohort of people that go to prison or jail, do you think they have the socioeconomics to be able to afford therapy?
No, probably
Like,
not.
typically people in prison and jail are really low in terms of socioeconomic class. They don't have the resources to go to therapy.
That's the problem.
And one other thing I want to mention, I agree with what you're saying, because it's like in society we've built these walls up for men not to be able to seek those resources and help. And so as a society, how I think that we can help that is being able to hold space for the men that do suffer with severe mental health issues or problems, so that we can kind of counteract that stigma of, hey, mental health sucks, you should be a man, suck it up, and actually seek that help with somebody that's trusted in a safe environment for them to be able to share that.
Yeah, plus men being able to talk about how they feel is actually a more powerful thing. Like, being vulnerable is a good thing.
I was going to say, I think...
Yes.
Yes, Brian. Get in tune with your emotions,
Yes.
Brian.
I think a man
Bring your
if a
emotions
man can
in.
come to me and tell me how he feels in general or to me, that to me is like the strongest thing you can do.
Well,
That's
let's
the
test
manliest
this
shit.
out.
And
Let's test this out, though. First date, the guy cries.
That's different.
Well, listen,
That's different. You don't cry to a girlfriend that you meet.
That is
like I
different.
I didn't meet solo and start fucking crying. Like,
But
on the
that would be
spot.
emotionally
So
vulnerable.
wait.
That would be
Yeah, but
vulnerable.
that's
I'm gonna
weird.
say, so like,
okay.
hold on one second.
You know it.
So if you're coming to me as a partner and you're like on the first date, you're getting a little too vulnerable, I'd be like, that's too soon. Just like me and you and with anybody at this table to trauma dump anything on you guys, it would be way too soon.
Sure.
But if you're in a relationship with somebody and you want to build that authentic connection where you're able to like hold that space and create vulnerability with your partner in longevity, you know what I mean? Yes, you don't have to be at a restaurant and be like, oh my God, crying and like letting all those emotions out. But when you're able to express your emotions in a positive way, just simply communicating just like this to your partner, that's different. You know what I mean? Being able to talk to your partner and be vulnerable and be like, hey, I don't like this. I don't agree with this. This makes me feel some type of way, versus being like crying or screaming. Because when you start to bring in those negative emotions, that's when that's not cute. And it's like,
Well,
you know what I mean?
When we're talking about vulnerability, so you're just saying the guy has a base level of problem solving
I think
and
more
communication. I guess you guys will have to specify what you mean when you say men should be vulnerable.
emotional intelligence, like being
What does that mean, though?
like
What is emotional
it
intelligence?
means to
mean?
be able to regulate your emotions.
talk about it,
Yes.
be able
And
to communicate and
Recognize
What's
the
an example?
problem.
Give me an example.
being emotionally regulated means being able to identify the emotion that you're having. Once you identify the emotion that you're having, you can start to say, okay, how does this emotion resonate with me and how I'm feeling? Where do I feel this emotion? That would be 3. Where do I feel this emotion inside my body? And how can I actively process that and vocalize that to the group of people that I'm speaking with, instead of being like, hey, I'm pissed off, I'm upset? Because as soon as you're activated and your amygdala is activated, you can't calm down and relax yourself. So if you're able to recognize a pattern within yourself of being like, hey, this person said something to me, you upset me, I don't agree with what you said, and you're able to analyze that and be like, well, why would that trigger me? And, go within and seek within, you can get a lot of answers for that.
I'm going to respond in just a moment, but Mr. Nobody has paid the SIM tax. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Mr. Nobody donated $200. All right, Lexi, I'll admit it. I've been simping. But don't worry, I paid the simp tax, compliments up front, loyalty in full, and maybe a coffee. So yeah, call it simp energy, but it's all invested in you.
Thank you. You guys are so sweet. Thank you for supporting me.
All right, cool. Thank you, Mr. Nobody, for the TTS. Well, I think what you're describing is just healthy communication styles.
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking for an example of a scenario in which a man would be hesitant to be vulnerable, but he should be vulnerable. Go ahead.
During funerals, a lot of men, well, not a lot, but, well, I guess I could say a lot, do, like, kind of don't show emotions during time of death and grieving. Both my brothers, for example, you know, it's just, men always say I have to be strong for my family, but sometimes...
What's wrong with that, though?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Nothing at all. But what I'm saying is sometimes it's okay to let go, because if it's the other way around, let's say it's like the man's mom or dad, you know, and and the woman has to be there to comfort them. It is okay to not be okay, and that goes for all sexes. It doesn't just apply to women. It doesn't apply to men. Women shouldn't be so emotional, and men shouldn't be so emotionless. And it's really the idea of it.
Balance.
Exactly.
Well, I think you're using a very easy example there. I don't think even other men would find fault in somebody having a moment of vulnerability or even crying in a funeral, although I would say it depends who. If your parents or something, I think that's totally justified for a man to cry under those circumstances. What kind of funeral are we talking about here, though? Like, what's the distinction when it comes to who's the relative?
The mother of the boyfriend, or the father of the boyfriend, just somebody on your spouse's family. Like, some people aren't close to their in-laws.
Yeah, I'm totally fine if if a man wants to cry because his mom or dad died. That seems justifiable.
Well, what I'm saying,
to me.
After the fact, though, you know, some men, you know, okay, yeah, the funeral's over, burial's over, but then after the fact, grieving is a long process. There's like 10 stages of it. And sometimes men don't, that's why going to therapy would be beneficial in this case, because to help them through the grieving process, instead of just having one emotion, which is, I'm angry at the world, I hate God, or so forth. I mean, I work with men and women all day, and men go in there and say, I've never got the chance to grieve it because that's why they're in my rehab center. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that, I mean, SA abuse and things like that happen in young boys, and they're too afraid to come out and share what happened to them, and that's why they end up, you know, where they end up without the help of therapy or a counselor or somebody just supporting that level.
Well, I think there are practical applications to therapy for specific things. If you're actually going to overcome a specific childhood trauma, or perhaps you're dealing with like anxiety or panic attacks, something like this. But sort of a generalized malaise, I don't think is, especially for men, is effectively treated through therapy. I think there's actually far better mechanisms for, you know, if you're just sort of vaguely unhappy, vaguely dissatisfied, vaguely slightly depressed, I don't really think therapy, especially for men, is helpful.
So, can I say something?
I think that you're speaking for like 4 billion people right now.
Yeah, I'm speaking in general. I suppose there are some men who can do talk therapy and it can help. But generally speaking, I don't think, and I think statistics show this when they've polled people who are involved in who do therapy, talk therapy is not particularly effective, especially for men. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're trying to combat a specific thing, then yes, but I mean, I can give you my own anecdotal experience. And this is more so like when I've ever talked about an issue with like a parent or something, there's something that's bothering me. Oftentimes I find talking about it just makes me more frustrated. Mm. And oftentimes in situations where I don't talk about it, a day, 2 days later, I've already forgotten about the thing that was upsetting me. I find it's just much more easy to just be like, is this really going to be an issue in a day or two?
Does that apply when the thing that made you upset is like another person who would like to talk about it?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, you're saying that instead of addressing the issue, you'd rather just like let it fade away from your brain?
Well, so if there's an interpersonal issue, that needs to be resolved.
Oh, okay. So that's yeah, that's
different.
what I mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't stonewall a girlfriend in a relationship, but if it's like more on an individual level, something's upsetting me or whatever, I find it far more effective. Like, you know, I recall when I was a bit younger, my parents would be like, "What's going on, Brian? You want to talk about it?" And sometimes I would engage there, and I would just be ruminating while having the conversation about it, and it'd almost be like reliving the thing that made me upset. And it would just get me upset. And then there'd be other times where they'd be like, "Hey, you want to talk about it?" And be like, "Nah, I'm good. I just need some time alone." And that was way better than just getting my parents all stressed out. "Oh my God, he's upset, blah, blah."
So
it's way
yeah,
better
everyone
for me
has
to
their
just go and
own-
deal with
everyone
it
has their
and
own
just be like,
method.
whatever.
So
And then, but the other, really quick, and I'll let you make your point. I think the other thing is people claim to be depressed or whatever, dealing with something. I think a lot of time that's because their life circumstances aren't in check, and going to wasting your time in therapy for your life circumstances, you're not going to really have an improvement in said life circumstances by talking to a therapist.
But you can like recognize that by talking to a therapist.
Well, for example,
another
like
way-
if I think as a man, go get in really good shape.
You're onto something.
Hold on. As a man, go whatever, like, look, there's serious issues that I think seeing a professional is absolutely warranted. But if you're, again, vaguely unhappy, vaguely depressed, go to the gym, cut out the drugs, the alcohol, eat healthy, get money. And then if you do those things, get those things. And then if you're still depressed afterwards, you've achieved the things you want to achieve, then maybe consider going to a therapist.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're just like eating like shit and you're just, you know, whatever, not in good shape and
Smoking all day.
you're doing drugs and drinking and, you know, your sleep's all fucked up.
No,
and-
definitely like correct your personal choices
Yeah,
before you go and
first.
spend money
Yeah.
on like
Yeah.
Yeah.